So working on week 4. So halfway through almost, I guess. So any questions from last week?
Yeah, what kind of door did we use for bathrooms?
720. The same door, so there'll be different types.
Okay.
So I don't think I got that far. So we got last week, we traced around our CAD file and then started putting some doors in and this permanent opening here as well. So hopefully you've got something that resembles this. Has anyone got their entry door or laundry dogleg door with window in? Yep. So, did I download it? Probably didn't download it. So, the entry door and the window, the dogleg door for the laundry are two different. One is a window family and one is a door family. I can never remember which one is which. So one issue with going into load door, like architecture, door tab, and then load family that way, it only allows you to load doors in that way, or windows, or whatever tool you're sort of in loading. I tend to just use now the insert and load family that way, because that way you can load in whatever you want, and then it's quite easy to, you don't have to worry about it not loading because it comes up with a warning. So if I go into architecture and door and load family and go into a window and try and load a window in, it looks all good and then it gives you an error. So you think you've loaded it in and then it comes up with an error. It says the family files you've selected cannot be loaded. You must choose family files of the door category doors. Sort of thing. So this is really prevalent if you're downloading stuff off the internet, particularly sites that are really good for content. But Revit City is really good, but that's not what I wanted. Oops. Sorry guys, I pressed the wrong button. If I just go into this family here, don't do this at the moment, but these are all the family types or the templates that are set up in Revit. So you can have a casework family, column family, templates, doors, electrical equipment, windows. So that's what you sort of start with to create your family, like either a door, window, whatever. So some people do start windows in the door family and vice versa. Also, quite a common one is the generic models template. That can sort of be anything then. So just keep that in mind. Sometimes if it won't load for some reason in a door, let's say, you can go to load family, and then if it doesn't come under doors, it's probably a component. Under architecture and component there, you've got, so components are things like desks, chairs, entourage, people, cars, There's probably not too much in this project. Trees and parking stuff. So I always tend to just load family via this way now. Like insert and then load family. Now, the other thing as well that I did say to you guys last week about Revit now remembering where you've loaded elements from previously, and it'll take you back to that file. for me at work, that's really annoying because I'll load a door in and then I'll go to load something else in, and I don't want to load a door in, I want to load in something completely different, like an annotation symbol or a tag from somewhere else. I'd have to go, you can go back like that, or on the palette here on the left, you've got metric library. So you can create shortcuts in here. So if you have a jobs drive at home, a jobs folder at home, you can go to a folder and then just drag it in and it comes there. So it's a sort of really quick access. I would suggest you guys drag the metric library, and this is what I started doing, even it's only been the last week, is I've got our content folder there. So rather than, sometimes these can be 3 folders to get into it. All I have to do is I just have to click that to go back to the top and then find what I want to load next. It saved me a bit of time and a bit of hassle, particularly seeing that's a bit annoying. The back button on some mouses doesn't work in here. My mouse doesn't have it. And then the other thing you can do in Revit as well is, if I just try and find you can also drag and drop from outside of Revit into a project. So this is the really annoying thing I find, is when you're trying to terminology through, what you think is the correct terminology for something, someone else might call a family of the same elements something slightly different. A good example at work is a whirlybird. Our whirlybird at work is named roof ventilator. Don't know why it's not just called a whirlybird, because that's what everyone refers to them as. Even our drawings refer to them as colour-bond whirlybird with a steel mesh insert. Don't know why the family's not called that. So I tend to sometimes, if I'm looking for something, I'll go to where we have our content saved at work and use the search here and just drag it into Revit. That's because there's no search functionality here. You can't just go to the Australian metric library, come up here, search awning window. I'll do it outside of Windows and then just drag it in, or outside of Revit and drag it in. It'd be really nice if they added that functionality to it. Particularly as well, who exports and saves CAD and PDF? Yeah. Does everyone know? Are you aware of the, if you're trying to save stuff, you can copy the URL and then paste it in there, and it takes you straight to the file location. Just as a side note, that saves you a bit of time, sort of thing. So this job here is one I have completed a bit earlier. It's got a few windows in it, as you can see. For some reason, my doors are green, so I'm not too sure why they are. Must have been the template that I applied to it, that I stole from someone else. So, Windows. That's not that one. So as you can see, this job I've put the windows in already, above the CAD. So what I was going to do for you guys while you go through putting the windows in is I'll create a schedule of which you guys can use to put in yours. Bit of a forward thinking thing as well. I tend to, when I'm putting a door or window in, I turn tag on and placement off, because it's a bit annoying. Particularly, we don't tend to use door numbers internally. We just use the door leaf size, like 820 sort of door. So that's a bit different. I still don't have it on for that, because if I turn it on, yes. architectural door tag. So I turn it on. So see how the placement, like, theoretically, if that was the leaf size, you'd probably want it something like that. So I tend to do it after. I want to keep my drawing as clear as possible for as long as possible. I don't want to clutter it up with notes and things like that when I don't have to. So you can do the tag all function. So I've only got door tags in this project because I cleared this out for something else. So I'll just load a window tag in. And then go to annotate. So this is where you start tagging things. So you want to annotate stuff. So we've got dimensions here. We don't need to worry about the dimensions because we pulled the CAD in. FYI though about pulling CAD in and pulling DWGs. Revit is super accurate. If I just go to dimension now and edit type and unit formats. So at the moment, any dimensions you put into Revit won't round, they will just round to the nearest number. In CAD, you can get around putting funky dimensions in, like it might be 5 meters, 0.92 millimeters, not 500. In Revit, if you start doing that, you'll get 501 because it'll round up to the nearest. So just keep in mind the CAD files you get from old people, other people have drawn them, they may not be super accurate. Just keep that in mind. If I have an issue with a job, I tend to come into my unit dimensions and change them to 2 decimal places when I'm dimensioning, just to check sort of thing, but I'll run through that again when we get into dimensioning drawings a bit later. So annotate all or tag all, and I can go by Windows. I can also here choose leader, and then I can choose the leader length, and I can have the tag as horizontal or vertical. I'm not going to put a leader on, and magically all my windows are tagged, so it's pretty easy. As you can see here, I'm missing a sliding door actually, and I don't think window 9 was in the CAD plan. Oh, it was. I don't have the CAD in mind anymore, so I'll be glad to have 2019 next year to teach because I'm so used to looking at the user interface now. So these are the windows. I'm just going to quickly create you a new window schedule. So we will go through schedules again, but I'll just show you here. So these are all the parameters, the parameters for a window in Revit. So you can get down to the really nitty gritty of modeling all the nuts and bolts in a window family. Or you can just say this window costs this much and it's got an allowance for X in the comments and the assembly codes and things like that. That's not what I want, the family. So there you go. If I open that up again. Can you guys read that okay? If I just make that a bit smaller. So window 1 is our, there's a hint, so obviously our window is our laundry window is actually our laundry door and window combination is actually a window, and then our entry door is at the door. So I've just started there. I won't renumber these at the moment, so they're a little bit out of order. So if you guys want to put in the windows, so loading windows into a project is a little bit different than a door. So you go architecture, window, so far it's all the same. You can also drag in here file, like places you go regularly in this Australian content library. So Windows is probably one of them that you go to I'd go quite regularly. And because it's at the bottom, some of these you can just click on, but the fact you've got to scroll down is a little bit too much hard work for me. So when you load a window in, does it say what type we're using? So we're just using the sliding 2L AUS families for this instance. So you just scroll down to the sliding 2L AUS. So rather than load in every single possible window size into Revit, it gives you the option to load in specific sizes. So for this, it's going to be a little bit of repetition for you guys so you understand the theory behind it. You have to click, you can just click on select the window size you want. So let's say a width of 1200 and a height of 1210. Don't ask me why they're weird numbers. It's the wrong way around for starters. It should be 1210 wide by 1200 high, sort of thing. And then just click OK. And then under the window tool, they will appear there. You can also edit type and duplicate them. So you can bring just one in and then duplicate to the sizes we want, which is probably what I've done here. Is I've just pulled one in and then I've duplicated it, edit type, duplicate, put it to the size you want it, and then change the size of the family. Similar to what we did to the wall last week. So if you guys just want to pull one in, so we might pull window 2 in at the moment, which is going to be the size of 1800 high by 2410 wide. Which is going to be a bit of a, just choose the best one that fits. If you haven't got one, yeah, just choose the closest one for this at the moment. This will be down the bottom, so that's better.
Oh yeah, so we're going to slide.
Sliding to go. And you can, so for this instance, you can just choose any size window from the sliding category, because it doesn't really matter. We're going to duplicate and make our own just because of they say they're Australian standard sizes, but they're not. If anyone's worked in brick dimensions much before, I don't care much for brick dimensions. I hate bricks, so. But unfortunately, I work for a builder that builds primarily brick veneers, so I'm stuck.
Why are they reversed?
Sorry?
Why are they reversed?
Only thing I can think is, because it always does my head in, because I don't even think about it at work, but I've got to really think about why they're the wrong way here, is because it's how it's done in America.
But when you're in, right, when you actually import it, it's 24 wide, is it? Wide.
Yeah.
So it's actually reversed.
Yeah.
When you import it. So it comes in at 24 wide, right?
So it comes in at 24 high, 2410 high by 18 wide. So yeah, I don't. I think something probably got lost in translation for when they started making the content for Australia, which was really easy to do. Yes, so I'll go through that.
So if we duplicate that, it's changed.
The width of the button.
Into that.
Yeah. So I'll run through that now. So everyone loaded a window in?
I haven't yet.
No.
Change something?
No, just select one there. Yep. So just choose one.
So that one there?
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
So I'm choosing that. Go okay. Now what happens?
So you go to window, architectural window.
Architecture.
Yep.
Cool. Now,
Yeah. So everyone's on architecture and window at the moment. I'm going to choose my 12 by 12 I bought in before. And I'm going to go edit type. So last week I explained about the edit type and duplicate, and 99% of the times you want to duplicate. Sometimes you don't. Like for instance last week when there was the brick veneer 250 and we were never going to draw on that, you can just rename that type of wall to a 240 and then change the dimension to 240. In this instance, you always want to duplicate the window sizes. I always duplicate them. I'm trying to think of a scenario where I wouldn't. No, I've always duplicated window sizes. I can't think of a scenario where I have. So you click on duplicate up here. You can type in, how do we tag them? I can never remember. So you say 1800 by 2400, and you can just put in there sliding window if you want. And you can click OK. And you'll notice up here in the family type, it goes to 18 by 24. And I've got all these other ones here. So then you come down to the dimension. And you've got a width, a rough height, and a height. So the width and the height are the window frame size. I think the rough width and rough height are sort of the stud allowance sort of thing. So you're not going to put your studs quite hard up to it, but it sort of just gives you that little bit more freedom. I really ignore them. Sorry?
It does it automatically.
So yeah, when you update the widths and that, it'll automatically add an extra 50 mil, depending 40, 50 mil. 50 mil in that case, and probably 60 mil in the height. Yeah, so it adds an extra 50 mil horizontally and 60 mil vertically to the window size. That is just a parameter in the family it just says, so in brackets it's got like width plus 60 equals that dimension, or that number. So it's coded into the family, and OK. And then that produces that window that we want. So at the moment, your windows may have come in at something like that, or they might be slightly out at the moment if you check the 3D. So ignore that at the moment. Just get all the windows where they need to be on the floor plan. So if I go back to my schedule, if I go back. View, time window. So if you guys just want to go around and put your windows in, So it's just going to be a case of edit type, duplicate, down to the next size. They're all going to be sliding windows in this project.
What are the heights on them? 1200 or?
I can. Do you want me to change this to height by width? Is that going to be?
I don't really mind, but what height are we going with?
I think they're probably all. Most of them are 18. Some are 600. Some are 900. So the ones in the toilets would be like 900. So, like, me looking at that window schedule, if I had to create them all, I just create my 1800 high one first, edit type, duplicate, do all my 1800 ones first, then move on to do my smaller ones. Because then you've only got to change the widths, not the heights as well. So you just got to think about it like that sometimes. I just added 10 at the end. Oh, do you mean like from the...
Yeah, just putting it so you've got a brick here and that sort of thing.
Nah. We sort of loosely at work follow it, but if the client wants it, they pay for the brick if you cut it, so...
Well, yeah, that's why I suppose you're deliberately positioned so you've got like 590 or 710.
Yeah. Yeah, ideally you'd position it that way, but sometimes it doesn't quite work out and they just pay for the cuts. Like, it's built into the cost, so I never really wrap my head around brick coursing and all that at Tafe. Oh, like, it's more the piers and that I didn't get, like the...
Oh, like the 350 by 350.
No, like the piers or whatever it is, the...
Pier to opening.
Yeah, pier to opening to, yeah, it's like...
So,
Sorry?
are we changing the head height of the windows when we're at it, or not?
No, I'm going to show you a cool way to do that after the fact. There's a couple of ways to do it actually. I'm going to show you another way. 2 ways. Yeah.
And I must be missing it where you decided which view you put on the axle inside. So right now I'm going to adjust you at the same time you're doing minutes. So I'm trying to work it.
Was there an exercise with kids, or was it just...
Not with the because I believe we actually done an animal video for that and actually adding the notes. And before that you're working on
So I didn't think there was a...
because there was exercise PA and PB.
Yeah, which was levels of that, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think that was my side things you decided to B.
Oh, yeah.
And I did go copy.
That's okay.
And I did a second one.
The reason I sort of changed in class is because most people aren't doing commercial projects, so I sort of just bricked over it. So
Yeah. That was fine.
that's okay. But
last time I actually had to skip lots of videos. For some reason I only they cut off at a certain point.
okay.
And I think it was about 15 minutes where it wasn't on. So I didn't match that by matching both those two settings.
Yeah. Did you get the was that on the learn site or was that
That's the time using the site on the YouTube channel. That's on there as well. They're the same process having the windows and
yeah.
So obviously I don't have to search and go through the manual elements. So I don't know in the same thing.
Yeah, that's okay. So it's just, this is more about the process.
Yeah.
And it's like, there are projects, I think there was a tutorial on the learn site, just adding sort of 50 that video, so I looked at the first
Yeah, that's what I'm
But
working on.
it's much simpler to show you these.
Yeah, I mean, retail.
Yeah, so it's heaps easier to show you these than a big thing, and this is heaps more relevant for pretty much everyone here.
So I believe a feature so exercise thinking was after it was actually after import, there was setting up columns for the lecture to add in line force.
Oh,
I did, yeah.
Always this like because I took over teaching from someone that just seems to be irrelevant from. It's just like it's probably a good resource to know how to do it, but sort of like where the textbook goes and where the actual lesson notes go, this is sort of starts competitive. Yeah.
Besides that, I also had that sort of program which asked me about burdens at stopping times. Every time I type that in number 94, the program will trash no matter what I did. The final attempt, I wrote half I sent in the report, somehow things didn't start working.
Yeah, of course it did.
Yeah.
That's how it works. So Windows 7 is a fixed window to the toilet as well, which is already, so Revit, you know how Revit comes in with some pre-made door or preset doors? It also has a few preset fixed window sizes when you start a new template. So just make sure, you can make it a sliding window, it doesn't really matter. This is more just the process of copying and putting in and pasting windows than anything. One other tip I've got for you guys, which I think I told last week, and it's probably not going to work in this project because I don't have the CAD in there. But if you go to the wireframe version, you can actually see where the doors and windows are in the CAD. So it actually lines up. So that's down here in the graphic display options. You can change it to wireframe. But again, this is just really to get you guys to practice putting windows and doors in. So don't worry too much about the accuracy at the moment. It's just about the process. Do you go to Windows, some Windows on this? Yep, no, that's okay. It's just the process. That one probably looks a bit high, but no. So you just want to change. Yep. So if you have a look up there, window 8 is that bathroom one. So you go back to your foreground. Yep. So this window, if you just hit escape, modify, tab button. Yep. So this window, just come down here to video styles. Looks a little bit. Yep. And change that to hidden line. So see how this window here is a bit big? So you click on that window there. Cancel. So you can click away from everything. So just click over here so it doesn't select anything, and then just select the window. So you come up here and go to the top. And then duplicate. And then window 8 is, Jesus, is a height of 600. 600. Yep, so just, well, it normally goes to 06 or something like that, and then 1200 wide, so just 12 there. 12. Okay. And you can change the width there to 1210. 1210. Yep. And then the height is 600. No, so this one's the height here. Yeah, it doesn't follow chronologically. So that's okay. And then you can click OK. You can see how that window's changed now. Yeah, so if you just want to do that, it's probably this one as well. And then let's edit type, click on it. There you can't edit type there or anything. No, just close that window. Again. And don't save anything. So click on it, edit type up here. And then follow the same process. Duplicate.
The same size?
No, so it's a different size. So window 6 is the 1500 height and 1450 wide. Right, so it's 1500, so it's
1500 high.
Yep, not 600 wide. So it's 15 by 14.
14. 15
Yep.
by 14.
Yep. And the width is 1450 on 4 by 4. And then the height is 15. Zero, zero. And okay. So it's just a case of going around and just doing that now.
The same size?
No, so just refer up there so you can see what.
I cannot.
No, can't see?
Yeah. But I can.
What's the right position?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah. That's another one which I'll go through in a minute.
It is?
Yeah, I'll go through that for everyone in a minute. Because it's a bit tricky. Sorry?
That's just a door. I think it's up down that door. The other thing else here is that side. I don't know where that is.
Oh, that's on the loon side. Oh, right. Yes. So last week, I think I said download them.
Okay, I got it.
So I'll give you another couple of minutes just to.
Where do you get item number?
Oh, that's on the loan side. So that BABPA laundry door and window combo is on the learn site. Same with the entry door.
Ah.
So there were 3 families on there that you should have downloaded last week. So they're there. Sorry, I should have said that. So has everyone got their windows in sort of thing at the moment? It's pretty easy, isn't it? Like it's all. Sorry?
Yeah. I'm assuming you get a window. What's in there?
Yeah, like this.
Templates.
No.
No.
No, I don't put windows in templates. But I'll tell you for a minute. But so what do you need help? Are you good? Yeah. Right. So I just put it in there. Or you can hit the space bar. And again. And again. And just put it in. Oh, there you go.
Says that.
Go again. Open it up in the next orientation. Just click on it, just put it in, and then you can use the space bar or the arrows after. This is, I mean, you can see this is a bad I don't use very often at all. So,
I have a question.
Yep.
Because this part is not fixed, right? You can move it.
Yeah.
There's a way to string it or something.
Yep. So So that's a good question. So now that you've got your windows in the ideal location, you don't want them moving, do you? So you can constrain them via dimensions. Let's say we're doing design development at this stage, and you just want the window roughly centered to the room. Or some of them aren't, some of them are offset to the room. You can use the pin tool to put a pin in place, and then that won't move. You won't be able to move it. You won't be able to delete it either. So keep that in mind. So if you can't delete something, I think it normally comes up with a warning that says like pinned elements or pinned objects can't be deleted, and you're like, oh, I've got to delete it. Or it comes up with like a warning to say pinned objects can't be moved as well. I quite get off from that with when I import surveys, because quite often it's pinned, like where it places it in the program, it'll pin it straight away, and then I'll go to move it without thinking about it, because there's so many lines on a pin, like a survey, you don't see the little pin head, you're like, oh, whoops, and then you're like, oh, okay, yeah, whoops. There's so many little mistakes that I keep making that theoretically I shouldn't as a lecturer, but
too many.
Yeah. But the thing is though, like, so I suggest for you guys the exercise that we'll make a start on tonight. When you're first learning how to draw a building from scratch in Revit, you know, you start with a shell, particularly if you've got the design sort of sketched out, and in this example you've got dimensions to run off anyway. You start with a shell, pin that all in place, then you do your internal walls, pin that in place, then you do your doors, pin them in place, then you do your windows, pin them in place, so they can't move. Eventually you get to a point where if something does move a little bit, you'll be fine, and I'll just move it back. But in this at this early time in learning Revit, it can be quite, to fix something, if you go too far down the garden path, can be quite difficult and annoying. Like, that's why I always suggest for you guys also to reference to a 3D view when after you've done, like, if you put all the windows in, check your 3D view just to make sure they're all right. Just like your wall heights when we drew it last week, check your 3D view just to make sure it all looked in proportion and it wasn't 8 meters high, like you've missed a step to say it's connected to the first level. So it's that sort of thing. Like you'll eventually learn pinning is actually more annoying than not pinning, because you can't move it, you can't delete it, you can't. But to get there is going to be a while. So, and you know, pinning is helpful for me sometimes. So I can't think of anything I've used the pin.
If you pin that one, you cannot delete it anymore?
You have to unpin it to delete it. So you can get rid of it. It's just not easy. Well, it's yeah. So got a couple of questions for that. So this window is probably not actually a bad one. So I got a question from Jamie about, does it matter which way you put your windows in when you put them on the floor plan? And this is not, if I go to fine, is it going to give me? It's not, these windows don't really give you a lot of detail. If in the floor plan, I should say, they're sort of just, you know, a couple of lines and that. But if you look at this window in elevation, in my 3D now, you'll notice it's got the plasterboard reveal on the outside and not the inside. If I make that. Is that a bit easier? Or it's got wood reveals these windows. So see how you get the aluminium frame and then just grey? If it's that way, click on that and change it again. And then you get one way, you get the the timber reveal. Sorry?
Can't tell the difference.
No, it's an issue with these windows it's a bit hard to see. Like at work, we have a brick seal is attached in our window family. So for us, it's quite easy to tell if it's a parameter. The parameter's ticked brick seal, and you can't see it. The window's in the wrong way. And then you can also like, it's a bit hard, but yeah, it's just like, it does make sense. And also I think if I just delete that tag, and I go back to annotate as well. See that if I go back to annotate and tag all by category and choose Windows and apply. So it does sort of make a difference when you use the tag all by category. I believe the tag will always tag the outside of the window, not the inside. So that's also like, you can move the tag after as well, like it doesn't really matter. And to be honest, like, it's probably only going to be like your drafting manager or someone that picks that sort of detail up to begin with. So I have a look at my elevations, which I don't have any. This is why. Sweet, I don't have any elevations. So I'm just going to close this project because I've opened the wrong one, but so here's the one I prepared earlier that had the window sizes and that on it. And they were all pinned in place with all my window door sizes in there. Missing one.
Bedroom one.
Oh, window tag, correct I am. But so so far we've gone through how to do our walls, our external and internal. We've gone through how to put our doors and our windows in. We've also, that's pretty much it, isn't it? I've quickly shown you how to tag stuff, but we'll go through that again a bit later. So what else do you need to complete your model? Roof, ceiling, floor, fascia, gutter, slab edge, downpipes, ridge capping, all which is possible in Revit. So I'm going to run you through floors, and I'm going to run you through the two different types of roofs, the ways to draw roofs in Revit tonight. And I think that's probably almost it for tonight. We might make a start on the next project, which I haven't unhidden yet. It's create a basic architectural model using architectural design using BIM software. It is quite an old model and quite a basic model, but it has a few different elements to it. So to do a floor, where do you think you'd go? Architectural floor. Yep. So we'll start with the floor because the floor is generally the easiest to start with. So if you click on architecture and then come to the floor, so there's a couple of different floors you can draw in Revit. So you've got the architectural floor, you've also got the structural floor. I believe they're pretty much the same thing, and it may just be a analytical thing that's different. Then you've also got floor by face, which is more, as you can see there, it's sort of like a slice of cheese shape, and the floor is sort of a weird, like follows that shape. It's more for massing and things like that. I've never used it. And you've also got floor slab edge. So there are a couple of tools that get hidden in the tools. So under wall, you've got wall sweep and wall reveal. Under roof, which we'll get to later, you've got soffit, which is your eaves lining, fascia and gutter. And then floor, you've got your slab edge. So just keep that in mind. If it's got a drop down, it means it's got a couple of options. So once you've clicked on floor, it's going to bring you back, bring you into sketch mode. And I haven't told you guys about sketch mode yet, have I? Nope. I think I mentioned it. So sketch mode is where you sketch out things that you want to have shapes of. So in this instance, we're going to sketch out the floor. You can sketch whatever shape you really want. Doesn't really matter. It's not. You can put. I'm pretty sure you can put curves in. You can put curve floors in. You can put spline shapes in. Not really helpful. So you've got your simple drawing tools again. You've got the pick line, and then you've got this other one that we've used previously, I think, the pick walls. So we're going to draw ours tonight using the pick walls. So if you look here, I've hovered over my wall. This is probably where my pre-selection color is not really good, because in sketch mode you draw magenta lines. My pre-selection color is magenta. Apologies, I don't think I can change that. Or maybe I can. There we go. So now my pre-selection color is orange. So it's just a case of going around your building and clicking the tick. Now up here you've got a couple of options. So you've got offset. I've never used it for a floor. I use it for a roof most of the time. And then you've got extend into wall core. So back on our construction of our wall, so I'll just go back into the construction of the wall. We have two core boundaries over our timber stud. So that's what it's referring to. Extend to core is going to the face, either face of the stud, like the core boundary. So this is how we model it at work. So that's because you get an 86mm brick rebate in Australia. So, or in South Australia at the very least. Other states can be a little bit more sometimes, depending on what sort of footings they're using and if they're using waffle pots. Yeah, depends on if you're building, like, you might have a deep and rebate at Blackwood Park. Yeah, so that's the core boundary. So if I go back into architecture, floor, so we want to select that. Now you may, can you see that blue double arrow there? That flips where the core boundary is. So to do your floor, it's really easy. It's just a case of going around the building and clicking that. Have you guys got a 100mm generic floor to use? Okay. So use that one, edit type, duplicate it, make it 100. Just because I'm going to give you guys the slab edge that I made that actually gives you the brick rebate a little bit easier than what the slab edge. Does everyone know what I'm talking about? Brick rebate in section?
What's 200?
100. So there's two rebates, or there's the rebate that comes in Revit is just a generic one. So To complete the sketch mode, all you have to do is hit the tick, and then we want to go to our 3D view. When it comes up with this warning, the floor/roof overlaps the highlighted walls. Would you like to join the geometry and cut the overlapping volumes out of the walls? No.
I didn't get it.
Didn't get that?
No, I didn't do anything either. It's like I didn't do it at all.
That might be because some of my walls are slightly different. So I might have done the slab rebate a bit.
Yeah.
It's more the roof this comes up for. So you just got to go around all the walls. Yeah, so just that one. Yep. Yep, and just go modify. Modify. Over here, and just delete that line there. Zoom in, and another one. No, I'm going to delete the second one. Just zoom in a bit. See how you've got one there? Yep. And that one, you want to delete those. Yeah. Yeah, because you must have accidentally drawn the two first. Yeah, and then that one, the second one, and that one.
I think I did it correctly that time, but I put that warning highlighter.
No, you just drew two white floors over the same floor. They're in the same zone.
I thought I did it wrong.
No, you were good now to speed, just hit tick. Just go for the tick. Oh, you missed this wall here, sorry. So go continue. Go back to normal. No. Yep, and then just hit the tick. So if you ever get this warning come up, I always tick no. So the reason this comes up and I tick no is if you have a roof on a building, it will join it to the roof, and then it won't be controlled by your level parameter. It will and it won't, sort of thing. So I generally tick no, just because it's easier. Then I go to my 3D view. And then you can orientate it so it's the bottom. And then you want to select your floor. Can you guys tell me if you can see on the Learn site the additional family files?
Yep.
If you guys want to download that one as well. So at the moment, we're looking at our 3D of our floor. If you come down to the bottom and hit the sunglasses, where you get the options. So we want to isolate the element at the moment. So you just get your floor or your slab.
So you hit sunglasses.
Sorry?
You hit sunglasses?
Yep. That brings it up.
Isolate.
Isolate element. So this can be really good if you just want to look at individual things in a model. In the final task we'll do in the course, it will tell you to attach walls to roof, which I've just told you not to do. In this instance, it's okay. In 2D, you're building a 3D model, do it in 3D. I tend to always do this for adding slab edge, because I just want to add it to my slab. You can get a bit confusing when there's walls and things like that in the way. So while we're here, if you guys go load family, so insert load family, and find that. What did it download as?
Slab edge.
Yeah, slab edge. Slab edge brick rebate. So find that slab edge brick rebate. And open that or load that into the project. So profiles are a little bit different. So before we go on to that sort of thing, so there's two different types of, well, there's one, the slab, this is the slab edge that is the generic profile that comes into Revit, this one here. There's just the black sort of rectangle with a triangle on it. It's okay. So to use that one though, you would move the wall, you wouldn't extend it to the core and you just draw it to the outside of the perimeter of the building. Because as you can imagine, you got your brick here and no rebate. So if you got Hebel or something like that, where you don't necessarily have a rebate, you do that. For this one here, which I'm giving to you guys, this is the one I used in my previous workplace. So this one's a little bit different in the fact that the profile is. So the profile is sort of. So it's got 14 mil. So the insertion point for this one, this profile is there. The insertion point for this one is here. So anyone got a guess why it'd be a 14 mil up sort of stand on the end? So 100 minus 86 leaves you with 14. So I'll draw I should have a section to show you guys of this, but I don't.
So if you got a 30 mil rebate, and you just get 70 as your insertion point.
You'd probably have a different, for this profile, you'd have a different rebate that would have a 70, would have 70 mil instead of 30, like instead of 14. So if you go back to architecture, floor, slab edge, and then click on edit type. So this is where, this is a little bit different to every other family you've pulled into Revit so far. Is you've pulled your slab edge in, and I can prove it to you because it's under profiles here. If I can see it. Slab edge. So it's there. So profiles are just, I guess, what's the easiest way to explain profiles? So everyone remember those Play-Doh machines they probably had as a kid, where you put the shapes on and you push it out, that gives you the extrusion? That's the easiest way to explain extrusion, I think. So that's what you're doing. So a profile is just using that shape to create something around the building, or slab, or roof, or... so that's profiles in a nutshell. So if I go back to my architecture floor, edit type, yours is probably going to be this one. What does yours? So this is the profile of your slab edge, the default slab edge in Revit. So under here you should have the slab edge rebate, slab edge brick rebate one as an option to select if you've loaded it in. so on the learn site there's one. So we go to the learn site. Just down the application of this file. And save. And okay. And then just go back to Revit. And insert location. And find wherever I just go. I went to my computer. Downloads. You got it loaded in. You're not going to be able to see it, but it's so just go out to sketch mode as well. Just cancel it. Just try to project around the other side. Just go HR. You've got to get out of there before you can. It's not there, is it? Can you open up the floor plan? That's what's up, is it? So you go insert load fan. Yep. So we go for drop down. Sorry, hit the cross. You got to hit the drop down. You go to the slab edge. Arrow. Drop down. Yeah. Then slab edge. Yeah. Then you have to type and find profile. So you just want to select the floor. Yep, and down here, you've got the glasses. And you've got isolate element. No, you want to isolate element. HR. And isolate element. Cool. Oh, yeah, so just this one here. Yeah, that one again, and again. So, your screen. There you go. And then on that one, cross, cancel, cross. So you go hit the drop down for floor, cancel, and cancel again. So see how there's the drop down. So you have the arrow there. You hit the drop down and go start. So everyone's got this screen open at the moment. Sweet. So now you want to select in that profile, you want to select the slab edge brick rebate profile that you've loaded in off the learn site. No, so you go cancel, close, architecture, floor drop down, go slab edge, and make it type. And then hopefully it's so we hit that drop down. That one. Yep. And then once you've got that selected, you can click OK. And then for this one, it's important that you select the top edge of the slab. So I suggest for you guys to use your view cube and just verify we have the top and hit the top, just so we make sure we know we're selecting the top of the slab. Just because we're underneath it, just to double check. And then it's just a case of going around and selecting all 7 points of the slab edge, or the edge of the slab. If you've accidentally clicked out of it like I just did, select a bit of the slab edge, and then you get the add and remove in the options. That allows you to add additional sections to the slab, rather than creating a separate slab edge. No, it was supposed to be the bottom of the slab, wasn't it? Apologies, it's been a while since I've used this one. You can change it, so you can also, and you've got a couple of options for the slab edge, so you could say minus 100, which will move it probably not enough. better. So then if you go HR, hopefully you've got something that resembles that with the nice little, what is 86 mil gap between the top of the slab and the bottom of your brick.
Put it in a floor. Are we supposed to go around the external perimeter or internal perimeter?
So for this floor, this slab edge, and this sort of approach, I choose the core, the exterior side of the core, so the outside of the slab.
Okay, so so the pitching one.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I've selected the outside of the brickwork and my select's bigger.
Okay, yeah. You worked it out already, so
Yeah, I worked out
like
wrong.
so for this one, for that generic one, that's perfect. Like to do that, that's perfectly fine.
Yep.
But for this one, you've got to choose the.
Yeah, because that's an extra 150 all the way around.
Yeah, exactly. So. So has everyone got that? Oh, you have it. There you go.
Did you modify it to do it like this?
I just went back to HR. So we can go HR. Press HR.
Sorry?
Should you just press on your keyboard? You just press HR. H. Yeah. So like HR.
Okay. No, it's not. Okay.
And just go to Tafe. So just change that. Okay. So you just have to do it again, but choose the bottom. That's okay, don't worry about it. It's trying to show. So,
It's maybe on the bottom here.
yeah, it is. I know you Australia, sorry.
Is that a gap?
Yes, yeah. So that's what the brick, or the concrete or the when it forms up the for brick sort of thing. So no. So the quick and easy way to there's two ways to bring your brick down. The easy way and the way that we do it at work, because we're really lazy, and I don't necessarily agree with it, but it's just to move the base off base constraint of your wall minus 86, and that will bring the whole wall down 86 mil. So externally it'll look fine. In a section you can just join stuff and it just magically blends in. The other way you can do this is go back into your wall, edit structure. You get a preview. So down in the bottom left you've got preview. Click on that one. Change it to section, the view type to section. And then, so has everyone got that open? No. So you go to wall type, click on your wall, sorry. Just click on the one you got there. On the brick menu. Yeah. It's just so cool. go RH then. RH. So you've permanently hidden all the whoops. So you might have come down here by mistake trying to fix it and gone and accidentally clicked apply. Temporary hide element, hide what's the name? So just go to undo to drop down. So go HR now. There you go. So you just click on wall, type, structure, preview, change that to a section. So you just want to jump into your so you just select this one. Just use document. Just use the and then go into filter. Structure. Preview. Change that. Change that to section. Must be good. Looks like a stacked wall with some description. So you've gone to section now. So this is really quite helpful when you start drawing sections of brick veneer buildings that have got eaves too. So in here you've got modified vertical structure. It's got a hint there, you can only do it when this is in the section preview view. So you want to hit modify. And then if you focus on any sort of edge, notice how I'm getting a couple of like dashes here. So at the moment, the constraints of our layers 1, 2, and 4 are locked together. So if the level moves up, it moves like everything moves at once. So that there, if I click on that, it'll unlock that from the other parameter. So I normally come in here and just do both of them. Obviously, you'd have this set up in a template sort of thing. So you can click OK. So if you click OK now and OK again, you'll notice in your properties for this wall type, you have base constraint is set to your finished floor level, base offset is set at 0, base extension distance is one we're after. So we want to change that to -86. And you notice now it comes down. So you can click on the wall, you can right click and select all instances visible in project. So we're going to change all our brick veneer ones down to -86 and go enter. And then you'll get all of the walls on your brick rebate. Right click on the wall, like have the wall selected, right click, select all instances. In view or project, it doesn't really matter in this instance. And then you can go in there -86.
Does that drop down the entire brick veneer or just the brick?
Yes, good question. Good question. Just the brick veneer.
Also, so the timber frame as well.
No, just the brick, not the
veneer.
Not the veneer. It's been a long. I'm currently on day 11 of working 12 days straight, so.
Working weekends.
Huh?
Working weekends.
No, I was at a Tafe workshop all weekend, so. Friday cannot come quick enough, but I'll be doing homework all weekend, so you know. So if I just draw you a quick section of what this is, if I go back there and not the right plan, and just draw you a section and just change that. So the other thing as well you notice is in this instance I've unlocked the air barrier as well. It's neither here nor there at the moment, it's just to let you know it's there. You get 2 arrows instead of 1. So if I grab my stud wall, I've only got 1 arrow sort of thing. But if I grab that brick veneer one, you get 2 arrows and I've got 2 at the top. So if you have a boxed eave, you just bring the brick down a bit to your eave line. But we'll go through that again in the next exercise. So before we have a quick break tonight, I'll run you through how to align all your windows easily to the right level. So if you want to open up let's go to the east elevation for this project. So mine are not, can't select all, I'm going to go that way. So your windows may be a bit like this, a bit like that, all sort of random elevations or heights and things like that. So there's a couple ways you can fix this. You can do a window select like this of the entire model, filter out your windows. So go up to select all, filter, check none, just select your windows. You can come here and change your head height. There. So I think, have we got 27 high ceilings for this one?
Yes.
Yeah. So I just choose 23, 22, because that works out as brick coursing, and hit enter, and they're all going to come up at the right height. So you can measure from if I measure from there, whoops. Does anyone want to have a guess of what was wrong now in elevation? Our west elevation? Yeah, because it's a window. So this is a bit of an issue of doing it this way. That filter doesn't discriminate, it just selects all the windows. You can't even then filter it down to say I want to select these awning windows. Like all the awning windows I want to have at this.
Should that really be in the door family rather than...
Should be, yeah. I'm not a fan of dog leg doors. In fact, we very rarely do them now at Metricon. It's just a
single glass door or something.
Yeah, we just do single glass doors generally. It's either a sliding door or a glass door in the laundry, sort of thing. So, but I didn't do this model, or this project, so I can't discriminate. So the other way you can do this, and this is what we were doing last week, we were creating levels. So I would go back into my architecture tab, level, untick make plan view, and just draw a level in here. So if I just go back into my windows, filter, windows, 2150, enter. So the best way, I think, and I really should start doing it a bit more often at work. So if we want them all to come up to 20, if you want to bring them all down now to 2150, let's say, which is, I don't know why I did. Is you can use the align tool. So if you go back into modify, align, of course I'll save the project. So you've got the option up here to do multiple alignment. So again, with the align tool, you want to select the element you want to move things to, and then you want to select the elements that you need to move. So the first click is where you want the items to end up. The second click is what items you want to move. So it's just a case of then selecting your level, coming in and clicking, and then this is an important tip, hit the padlock, because that then will constrain it to the level. So if the level moves, the windows go with it. I wouldn't do the doors because a door needs to actually change the physical height of the door if they move. So I wouldn't do the doors. So it's just a case of going along and aligning them in all the elevations.
And then lock it, is what you said?
Yeah. So you can zoom in and get the top of the window. The padlock tends to stay in the same place if you stay zoomed in. Yeah. And then that way, if you want to change the level to 23, 22, they all go with it. It's really easy.
You have to do it on all 4 elevations?
Any window you've got that you want to have it aligned to that level. Like if you have a kitchen fixed window behind the cooktop and that, you're obviously not going to align it to this level.
No, yeah.
Yeah, so
If you don't lock it, it doesn't move.
it doesn't move from that level.
Yeah.
It goes with the level.
No, but if you don't lock it, it stays where it was when you move the level.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just an align. Yeah, so if you don't lock it and then move the level, it's not going to go with it.
And then you can constrain the sill height to the bench height.
Yeah, I just normally put the sill height in because there's generally I think there's 2 parameters in the. So you got sill height and head height. I have someone at work trying to tell me they want to put a default sill height in all our windows. And I'm like, why?
I was only thinking
The sill height.
for the kitchen windows.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But like she wants to put the default sill height in. I'm like, why? The sill height varies between window sizes so much. Why wouldn't you not just put a default head height in?
Kitchen windows, rather.
Yeah. So that's getting all your windows to be on the same level or movable. Obviously, you could go through and just dimension, dimension each one, or dimension one of them and then align them all as well. But then you don't get it around the whole building. So that is that bit. What else do I want to go through?
What's the size of the sliding door?
Oh, this sliding door family is terrible. I've got a 2040 by 2400. But I don't think it measures that way. Yeah, it is. I think I just put it in there. Doesn't really matter. So if everyone wants to grab a quick break, get up and stretch their legs, I'm going to go fill up my drink bottle and that. So has anyone got any questions? So we'll move on to doing our roof now. So we want to open up our floor plan. And we want to go back to our roof. We'll click on our roof button. So as I alluded to before, there's two different main ways to draw roofs in Revit. You've got roof by footprint or roof by extrusion. So we'll go through roof by footprint first. It's the one that's used 99.9% of the time. I don't draw roofs by extrusion very often. So it brings us back to sketch mode. We also then have our pick wall function as well. So you click on pick wall. You've got you've got an extra option in the options bar as well. You've got define slope, which is basically defining the pitch. So we want to make sure that's ticked for this example at the moment. The overhang is different as well. So the overhang is sort of like your eave projection sort of thing. And then you've got extend into wall core as well. So if I wanted firstly I'll show you how to the issue that can arise by drawing it this way by the pick wall option. So I'm just going around and clicking all the walls. I don't think that was right, but okay. So if I just open up an elevation, and have I got the right? That's the one I want. Anyone see anything wrong with that, apart from the fact you can't see the top part of the roof? Notice anything wrong with that? Okay, so I go back to a floor plan and draw myself a section. So notice anything wrong with that now?
It's a little high.
It's a little high. So there's you can draw it this way, and then you can. So obviously that's what I want. So this is obviously this is drawn with pick wall, pick wall, where the intersection point, if you trust, is the top plate, the outer edge of the top plate. So you can come in here and then move it down, and then sort of move it up a little bit. So that's how it should be. So this is a truss roof, so your 90 top chord, a 45mm batten, and then your 16 corrugated. So that's that's not too bad. I'm an experienced Revit user. That's taken me less than 3 minutes to do while explaining it to you guys. So you guys should be able to draw a roof like this in 5 minutes. But what happens if you forget to move the roof down? What happens if the roof changes? You see the heights change. You can't always guarantee it's going to be correct. You notice in here at the moment it's got the base offset from level is minus 316.4. I always tend to leave the 0.4s that happen there, or the points that happen there. So the way that I'm going to take you through now to draw a roof is using the pick wall function. So we want a 450mm eave in this job. So our overhang needs to incorporate the 150mm, so the 110 brick and the 40mm air gap. as well. So that needs to, your overhang needs to be 600 here. And then if you guys, did it prompt you to choose a level for your ceiling?
Yep.
And did you guys choose ceiling level? Okay, good. Because sometimes it doesn't prompt me. Like on my project, it doesn't prompt me. And at work, on most jobs, it doesn't prompt me to choose a level for the ceiling. So quite often I draw a ceiling on my floor plan, on my floor level. It's easy to do.
How do you change the level?
You just select the element and then change the level. So it's easy to fix after the fact, thank God, because I really need to learn to just double check what level I'm drawing on. But it's generally not till I go to the 3D and check and go, oh, whoops. So same process as our roof, our floor. Just a case of going around selecting the building walls. So there's a couple of other elements, I guess, that come into the roof. You'll see this little triangle. You can't click on the triangle. If you click on the line, so the triangle is there to say that the slope is defined. So obviously the slope defines the hips and the valleys of a roof. This is a simple roof. You can get more technical roofs in Revit, like houses have got part eaves. And then houses have also got a raised portico under the main roof line. They're painful, FYI. I'm not going to run you through that because every time I try to do something like that, the scenario always works for me and it doesn't show that it's really hard. So at the moment, we want to create a hip roof. I want the roof to be 22.5 degrees. So you notice that the default roof slope in Revit is 30 degrees. There is unfortunately no way to change the default slope from Revit to 22.5, unfortunately. So there's a couple of ways you can do this. You can click on each line and then type in 22.5, which, you know, it's probably a good way to drag out Friday afternoons. You can do a Windows select and select all of the lines. And over in your properties, you can change it to 22.5 and hit the tick. Check your 3D. My roof, you're probably going to have like the generic, just choose the generic 150, 125, 125 roof. So to change the construction of your roof is the same as your wall. So it's just, you know how we changed our brick veneer air gap, you can add layers, you can subtract layers from your generic ones. I can't remember what the other types are in there, but so the third way you can change your roof pitch, and Paul's already found it out, is once you exit your sketch mode and you've completed drawing your roof, if you click back on your roof, under dimensions you have the option to change the slope here, so you can make it a 25 degree roof. You go, no, I don't like the look of that, I'll go to a 17 degree roof. Sort of thing. So I generally actually these days tend to just go into my jobs. So I go into a job, you know, I'm drawing my roof. I always suggest for you guys at the moment, when you're sketching roofs out, do it in the floor plan, don't do it in 3D. It's a lot easier. So I'll come in here, you know, I'll just leave it at 30 and I'll hit the tick. And then I'll go to a 3D. and then check, and then change it here to 22.5. Presto, it's done. It's easy. So roof's pretty easy. This sort of roof is.
That one is. They do all keep roofs, do we?
No. So how do you think you do a skillion roof? Everyone know what a skillion roof is? Flat something. So if you think the lines you draw are slopes, like the defined slope. Does anyone want to have a guess at what you might do to draw a skillion roof?
Roof like extrusion.
No, you can do it this way, but
5 foot roof.
yeah.
The slope's going to be 10.
Yeah, well, let's say we want to do a 10 degrees skillion roof. So at the moment, you've got all the lines, all your footprint have slope defined to them.
So you're going to put it on two sides?
One
side, right.
Yeah. So if you go back into edit footprint now, and go back to your floor plan, it's a matter of, so if it has a slope defined, it's going to pitch up, basically. If that's it. So it's a case of not undefining the slope on bits of the roof that you don't want to have a slope. So I don't know what this roof's going to look like. Oh, there you go. Oh, it's because it's control there. So this is how you get your gable ends, and how you get your skillion roofs. So I'll just complete the skillion roof for this one. Then you go back to your 3D view. That's still at 22.5. I'm going to go 5 actually.
So you take the slope off.
So to do that, you can select. So you can select each one individually, and up here you've got defined slopes in either up in that properties or in the properties there.
Just push the tick first? Or?
After. So select the line and then hit the tick or untick.
So tick this one in?
So you're drawing again, so you just need to I'll come over here, you modify. Select the line. And then define slopes there, or we've got there too. Select all and just draw it again.
Drop it.
Yeah. So you can just you can stay in sketch mode, just do Windows select. Yep. And delete.
Delete.
No, that's cancelled. Go back into the 5 footprint. Choose the level 1.
Level 1.
Choose level 1. Then come up here and do 600.
600.
Yeah. And then extend it to core. And then go around and select all the walls.
Go on.
Yeah. So same like we did for the floor. No, you can't do it. You've got to do it individually. And then you can hit tick here.
Here.
Complete the sketch. Yep. And if you go to your 3D view, then you click on the roof. And you can change the slope of the pitch of the roof. On the wrong level. Oh look, it actually I do it more times than I care to admit.
So how do you fix it?
Yeah, so see how it's got the level here. Just change that. So
Okay. Yeah.
Thankfully, it's an easy thing to fix.
What about yours?
Are you trying to get out of sketch mode or? Yeah, it's going to probably be exceeding sometimes. So you're trying to make it skinny?
Yeah.
So go back in and add a footprint. And then just click on that line. You've got line slip there, and there. So you can just untick it.
Or just leave it on.
So just leave the one at the back. You can just run on those. So you can do a window select on those as well. You can do that one too. Okay. That's going to be a steep roof. Yeah, but you can change. You can also change it around forward. So it won't update until you get to see a car. Yeah. No. Well, actually, technically in this one, I would say yes. Just because, although quite often if you do something like this, it'd probably be a lightweight, like Skyon or something like that up the top. It'd be brick to somewhere and then Skyon. You wouldn't necessarily brick all the way up the skin.
I just deleted this thing again.
Yeah, so just change that to like 5. So, catch it. So, do you want to change this one to a skinny? So just let go back into the sketch. Edit footprint, sorry. So just check that edge, yeah, and go edit footprint. And jump back to your footprint. It's probably the easiest way to do it. So if you see, we've got click on that one. So see then we've got translate there or there. Both the same button. So you untick it there, and just go around and untick all of them. Oh, you got to select, like, if you want to do it that way, you can do a CAD select, like, yeah, that way. And then untick it there. And again, because so, I can't, yeah, so you generally got, if you've got one different, you've generally got to press it twice. And then you can hit tick. And then go to 3D. Yeah. Set there, it's a 22. So I'd change that to a 5-degree pitch. So, I guess for this, little bit, so I'll run you through how to put fascias and gutters on. So, and then I'll run you through, we'll probably finish tonight with just like the different types of views and when you use them, and like duplicating your views and that, I should say, and call outs and things like that. And then next week we'll make a start on the project, probably. So if you guys now want to take your skilling roof back to a hip and valley roof, and I'll run you through the roof by extrusion. So the roof by extrusion is pretty simple. So as that as it sounds.
The roof sitting on the brick out course, that truss, is that how it should be? Or not?
It may just be how that generic roof is set up.
Right.
So, because for mine it worked where it's got the core.
Yeah.
So if you just check the structure of that roof, it probably does have the core, but just go cancel. Footprint again. Go back to select the floor plan. Just click on the line. Extend core. There we go. Yeah. That extending the core one will get you every time too. It's an easy one to miss. So running through roof by extrusion. So you want to click the roof drop down and choose by extrusion. So everyone got this dialog box up where it's asking you to, or the work plane dialog box. So if roof by footprint was asking you to draw the footprint of the building and then sort of, you know, it creates the footprint from that, or the roof shape. Roof by extrusion is asking you to choose a work plane for that. So basically, you can pick a plane. You can put work planes in there as well. So what it's saying is, like, I'm going to choose my south elevation plane, and then it's going to draw the roof, whatever crazy shape. If I just draw a straight line, it's just going to be a straight line. Something like that. That's the floor plan looking down, but it's sort of drawn from this way. So if you just go pick a plane, and then it'll sort of, like, you can hover over something and then click it. It'll ask you to it'll take you to a relevant view to see something. So I'm going to open up my south elevation. This time it's going to ask me for a level to put it on and an offset as well, interestingly enough. I'm just going to put it on my finishing level and OK. Brings you back into sketch mode. You'll notice there is no pick wall option here anymore. That's disappeared because why would you need to pick a wall in this option? So you've got pick line as well. So I guess if you have a CAD shape or something like that you want to create. So this type of roof, this way to draw it, is more about curves than anything else. We can obviously draw a ceiling roof with the footprint one, but if you want to draw a roof with a radius of some color bond does a radius to something, polycarb does a radius to something. If you want to draw, I'm trying to think what roof Adelaide's got, what building Adelaide's got a funky roof. Yeah, that's totally different. But yeah, if you want to draw a funky shaped roof, butterfly roof as well, you could do this way, or you could do two skilling roofs, sort of thing. So I'm going to let you guys have a play. You can draw whatever random shape you want. Doesn't matter. It just needs to be a line. It can't be a closed anything, I'm pretty sure. So if I was to draw a spline, not that a spline will snap. So if I go to a 3D view now, that's the roof I've just drawn. And that's about as fluid as that Revit gets.
No.
Yep. Yeah, you can get two. Cancel. Yeah, should be able to do that. Oh, apparently it must have been to something at some point. So there are limitations to it, but no. So you want roof by extrusion, not roof by computer architecture. Roof up down. Roof by extrusion. And then, yeah, okay. And then just choose the roof. Choose that wall then. Yep. All one okay. And then you can draw it in. So this roof, this, you know, I would not draw roofs very often this way. Actually, probably the only one that I would occasionally draw this way are bullnose verandas and concave verandas.
Something that's separate from the main roof.
Yeah. So yeah, you sort of colonial looking houses that have got the concave, or your big like ranch style houses that have got the concave veranda all the way around the hills. That's where I'd use this. So the thing with the roof by extrusion as well is, if I click on here, similar to your walls, you just get 2 arrows and you can make it continue the extrusion as long as you want. In the options you've got, or properties, you've got some things as well. So I don't, well, Metricon doesn't do bullnose verandas, so not their style. So that is essentially the 2 ways you can draw roofs in Revit, or the 2 tools to draw roofs in Revit. Some roofs I've drawn have got 3 or 4 roofs in the one roof, under the one roof.
What about merging a skinny roof into a hip roof?
What do you, like for a lean-to or something like that? Or
Either a lean-to or an extension, or if you're trying to have a rake ceiling in the back and you want to have a hip roof in the front. Or do something else funky like that.
I've never been, I don't know. It'd just probably be a lot of trial and error. I'd probably use the roof by footprint tool.
Just sort of build 2 separate roofs.
Yeah.
Together or something.
Yeah. So I'll quickly run you through adding fascias and gutters. So if you just want to create a hip and valley roof as well, again, so you can select your previous roof and just select it all and turn the defined slopes back on. That's at 5 degrees, and then change it to 25 degrees. One other tool that's in the that comes up, or it comes up anytime, but it's quite important to know it's there, is the Align Eaves tool. So on my project at the moment, I have, so everything's at minus 280, minus 280. This one here is minus 371 because I've just made the eave actually longer. So if I complete the sketch at the moment, and so see how my roof does that, where it's, I haven't shown you guys underlay yet, have I? No. So see how my hip still goes through the corner of my brick, but then I have this funky thing here. This tool comes in here, this Align Eaves tool comes in really helpful. For this sort of scenario is where you have a slightly longer eave on one side or something like that. So you can adjust, if I go adjust height, and it's a case of copying, so you want to select what you want to copy first. So I want to select this as minus 280, and then it's sort of next click is a paste. You notice it's now gone to minus 280 as well. Then if I hit the tick, it obviously moves the pitching point, but or the hip point. So that's there for more when you have houses with part eaves and things like that. It's quite helpful. So just keep in mind that's there for issues like that. I will throw. Does anyone want me to run through how you would do a garage on boundary detail? Okay. I will put something together for next week then. Or the week after, I might I'll run it through individually with you guys. So, oops. So fascias and gutters. So under the roof tab, you have. We'll run through soffits later in the next project. So roof, there is an order to this. So you have soffit, fascia, gutter. Fascias need to go on first, and then you need to add your gutters to your fascias. It doesn't work the other way around. So if you click fascia, this brings us back to what is essentially was our slab edge tool, but it's just on the roof, so it's only going to attach to a roof as it's drawn. So the one thing that's here as well that I might not have said, I know I didn't mention before, is you can hit the tab button, and it will select all the edges of for the fascia, and then if you click, it adds the fascia around the entire building. So, and then gutters is the same, except you don't get the luxury of using the tab button. So you've got to go around and select all the elements, all the edges you want to add the gutter to. So adding fascias and gutters is pretty easy. Because it's the underlays not on. But I would add your fascias and gutters in 3D, because then you can see the edges that you want to add it to.
Yes.
Yep. So you go to architecture again, the roof drop down. So we can't cancel that. Yeah, so the drop down, and then go fascia. So you hover over the edge, and hit tab now. So you just undo that. So you hit tab. So see how just hit a one, like just press tab, don't hold it down. So see if you go again. So you're going to do it. See how it's selected all of the roof now? You can and click with the mouse. Probably on. Looks like it. So just cancel. Sorry. Just cancel that one. So if you zoom in a bit, so that's your fascia there. So this you can do the same again for your gutter, but you can only do you've got to do your gutter like there, like all the points, because it doesn't recognise that as one thing, unfortunately.
Why is that one?
It shouldn't be. Just go edit footprint. Edit foreground again. Just double check that that is the same as that. That ultimate overhang is the same, and the pitch is the same, and all that stuff. Sometimes the ones do turn up in random, like they're in the plane, but they turn up. Okay. But as to why, that line should stop there.
Yeah. That would be
days around issues like this. Just delete the roof and draw it again and see what happens. That would be my turn it off, turn it off, turn it on again. Restart it. So you get your face from cover on.
Watching.
Yeah.
So yeah, drawing your roof's pretty easy. Adding your fascias and gutters are pretty easy. Believe it or not, you can get ridge capping profiles off the internet and use a fascia and create ridge capping on these edges too, so you can put them up so it looks a little bit more realistic. The other workaround putting ridge capping on was to draw another roof that I've done. So that is fascias and roofs. If you guys want to add a little roof, little veranda to your portico-ish area, feel free to, and you can add a gutter to that as well. And then, actually no, if you do guys do that now as well, so just what have I got it at? $5 degrees. I'll leave it up to you if you want to draw it by extrusion or by footprint. Oh yeah, it's a bit of a bug. If you click to this one here, click that a couple of times, it'll cycle through. And again, yeah, there you go. It's a bit of a bug that's been around Revit for ages.
Okay.
Just want to sign. Yeah. Yeah. Just got to go that way. So you want to add a flat roof there. I'll show you the one.
So what are you doing there?
Yeah, you can just. I just do it by footprint because it's just a case of using the rectangle tool and going click, undefine the slopes, 5 degrees done. I did it by extrusion, but.
So what's on that 7 one?
Yeah, minus 500 or something maybe. Doesn't really matter for this exercise. Oh, so you're doing the what a curve. So I just use the rectangle tool. Click there, click there. That's not that wasn't the rectangle. Sorry. Yeah, next one over to the left. That one. Yeah. Click there, click there. Yep. And then just grab do your right left thing and grab these 3 ones. Or grab them all and then hold shift down. And hit that one. Now you can undefine slopes. Yep. And then that one you just want to say maybe 5 degrees. So click on that one. The one, yeah, it's a bit seeming, isn't it? The sort of triangle. 5 degrees, enter. Yep. Yep, cool. Maybe minus 500 off the ceiling level. So base offset from just go minus 500. And then add a gutter and fascia to the add a fascia to the 2 edges that you see, and then add a gutter. Try and add a gutter to both sides, but I think you'll have a few issues. So again, do it in 3D because it's easier.
Yeah, just like
This is why I have a keyboard shortcut for fascia and gutter. Because I was like, God, it's so annoying adding So you add a fascia, if you add your fascia to that one as well. Oh, you can click on, so you can click on the fascia.
Yeah.
So just hit modify. Click on the fascia you've got already. You can add remove segment. So then it's like one fascia, not two separate ones. So you're trying to add a gutter. I wouldn't worry about that. That'd just be like something.
So what else have we got around there?
Yeah.
Oh,
Don't worry about it. So you can use a model in place family to model your end cap, or just ignore it. So we try it. Elevate. Yeah. Oh look, I think you and me as designers would probably pick that up, but Joe Blow with the street would be so impressed with everyone's 3D in their house that they're not picking it apart like you and I would. So has anyone been able to successfully add a fascia, not a fascia, a gutter to their part, like their bit of the roof on the slope? Nope. So Revit will not let you put a gutter. Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. So yeah, Revit will not let you put a gutter on anything that's got a slope. So if you have a bastard hip roof and an unequal pitching point, there's a bit of an issue. So
Is that why we put on fascias? So that gives you something vertical?
no, it won't even let you put it on the fascia that's... So in this example...
Also, in this example, the fascia will be the sliding.
So the fascia goes on no issues. But if I go back in and try and do a gutter, it won't even let me select something that's going up, which is really annoying, if you ask me. There is a workaround to it, and that is using a gutter profile. Profiles.
You wouldn't normally have it there anyway.
No, but on a boundary gutter detail, you would. Like it'd just be two little bits like that, but you would, wouldn't you? You'd need it there. So I just show you guys. So this is your gutter profile in all its glory. It's also wrong. This, in reality, is somewhere down here. That's okay. So in your profiles, and I worked this out by mistake. So I created a profile. I didn't realize it had profile usage. So you can have generic profiles, specific to fascias, mullions, railings, reveals, lots of stuff. I just created a gutter using the profile tool, left it as generic because I didn't know, and then I'm like, oh wait, that's in my fascia. And then your fascia can go on the slant. So that is something you'd have to do for a gutter profile on the boundary, yeah. So it's not the one I wanted. So probably the last thing I run through tonight briefly, and then we'll touch on it again next week. So under the View tab, if I go to a floor plan, I should say. So we have a couple of options under the View tab. So this is where we've got the Create panel. So we've got a section which we've been through a little bit before. you can also create other elevations. So if you had a courtyard in the building, you can create elevations to look in that courtyard. If you want to do internal elevations, that's where you'd find internal elevations there. Please don't use sections as internal elevations like I know someone did and it took me a day to fix it. Plan views, did I mention plan views last week about changing the view range independently of what the rest of the floor plan is? So as you can see, I've probably got it in this because I can see my 6x610 window in my WC because we know that's above our cut plane. Drafting views, they are what they sound like. They're just simple 2D views to draw details in. You've got schedules here, legends and scope boxes. We'll talk about schedules and legends a bit later. So you've got callouts, and then you've got the duplicate view options. So what do we think a callout is? So you've got two options for a callout. You've got rectangle or sketch. So I click callout and draw something in a plan view. It's a section detail, like it's a detail thing. This is where there's a few idiosyncrasies in Revit. So I go back into callout. You notice in the options here, I've got reference other view. So if you have a drafting view of a CAD file, a detail from CAD that you've brought into a project, like you've brought it into the project, you set the detail view up, you just want to reference that view. You don't want to draw it from scratch. You've got a wet area detail, something like that, already set up. You can tick reference other view. You can also then select the view here at references. I'm just going to choose new drafting view. What can I do now? If I tick, I don't know. So that will now reference the drafting view that I've created. It's created for me, which is awesome. So to reference other views, you've got to tick that when you're creating the callout. If I go and create a callout now and try and reference, it's not going to let me. See how it's all grayed out? I can't reference another view. So these are the little idiosyncrasies in Revit that you need to follow the process sometime, like to get what you want. Thankfully, it took me a whole 0.5 of a second to create a callout, so it's just as easy as deleting it and starting again. The same for sections. You can reference other sections. So if you have a standard section you use for a house, let's say, you could reference that. And the same with elevations as well. You can reference other views. So that's there. Basically, it's pretty easy. Never use a framing elevation. The other one that I'm going to leave you on tonight is duplicating of views. So if you remember way back to week 1, we had a whole lot of, we looked at that hotel model, and it had a whole lot of level 1 or the ground floor views. It had like 5 or 6 views, like types or view set up with like furniture, fire egress and all that sort of stuff on it. This is where the duplicate view tool comes in. So you can access it here, or you can then right click as well, duplicate view, just to duplicate with detailing or as a dependent. So what do we think just duplicate does? Yeah, copies it. Just a blank copy though. Just copies the geometry and that's it. So any annotation, any detail lines, any text, any dimensions, any tags will not come through. So if I click on here again and go right click, duplicate with detailing, what do you think we get?
Detail.
All that stuff. Yep. It's pretty straightforward. Now the last one is the tricky one. Duplicate as a dependent. What do we think we get now?
Everything you changed here is going to be changed there.
Well done, Jamie. That is the correct answer. So duplicate as a dependent. You'll notice now in my project browser, the floor plan has actually come up under the floor plan I've just copied, and it's named dependent. If you guys, I know it's named dependent. Does anyone want to have a guess why you'd use this? It's a bit of a difficult one. Project's too big to fit on a sheet. So if I had a project that was too big to fit on a single sheet at A3, let's say it went over 2 buildings and I didn't have an A2 plotter or something like that, so it went over 2 sheets, you can have part A and part B on 2 sheets. I normally try and show you an example of this on this little building. Doesn't really work. The other reason I use this, and I use it a lot more now, is we have some jobs at work, some designs that just fit on an A3 sheet lengthways with 2 dimensions. So that's what we do. We just put 2 strings either side at the start of the job just so they can sort of work some sizes out, not all. When we go through to the working drawings of the job, we end up putting all the internal stuff dimensions in. It's not going to fit on the page. But not too many people have got A2 printers. I imagine you guys probably don't have an A2 printer at home. So A3 is king, generally. Hopefully most of us have got A3 printers at home or access or go to Officeworks. So what I will do is, in this view, I will select all my, right click and select all my dimension styles or dimensions. Visible in view. And then I will hide them. Hide element in view. Hide in view by element. So on one sheet, I'll have one that's at scale at 1 to 100 on A3, and then I'll print another one at A2. I'll put on another A2 sheet, and then when that's printed down at down to A3, which is 71%, at least it's not to scale. So if they wanted to scale something, they can get the A3, the proper one at A3, and then. But the benefit of doing it this way, as Jamie said before, if I add a detail line here, something like that, it will come up in the other view. So it means you're not missing things or you forget to... If you just went duplicate with detailing and just duplicate, and then you just went off like this, and you added something here now, it's only going to show on that view. So the thing you've got to think about is, particularly when you're doing sections, all the annotation you do is sort of like an overhead projector. Does everyone remember an overhead projector? Luke, you know what an overhead projector is? They still had it at your school? Cool. So if you imagine, let's say this is my section of the building. I've taken my overhead projector overlay and I've scribbled on that. So if the building moves, the overhead projector overlay doesn't go with it. It's the same here for the annotation, like the views. So that's duplicating views and the different types. Now obviously when we get, I'll show you how to put stuff on sheets next week. A view can only be on a sheet once. That's why you need to have heaps of different view type, or the same view heaps of times to put them on multiple sheets if you want. The only downside to doing the dependent, so if I decided to go here, if I just duplicate another one by dependent, if I go right click, hide in view by category, all of the dimensions disappear. So it needs to be hide in view only, not hide by category, because it will then hide everything in all the views. But to be honest, it's probably only like 5% of our jobs that don't fit on, or maybe 10% of our jobs that don't fit on A3 sheets. If you end up working in a architectural office, they generally haven't got a plotter, so you generally just go a size up, sheet-wise. It is really annoying when you go to print sheets that are different sizes in Revit. You can't just print all of them in one hit. You've got to print all the A3 ones and then print all the A2 ones separately, which does annoy me at the moment, but there's not much I can do about it. So I think that's probably about it for tonight. So next week we'll go through, we'll start this project. So it should be relatively straightforward for you guys now. So at the end we're going to develop, so here's a floor plan that we're going to use to set out stuff with. We're also going to run through colour fill legends, which to be honest I didn't really see a need to until I started working with Metricon. So it's a good way to put your floor finishes like tiles and wet areas and things like that. So we'll produce that plan. We're going to produce a section with a couple of details, and that's probably going to take us a week and a half, 2 weeks to do. And then we'll start the last model, which will take us to the end. So see you next week, guys.